Hey, how you guys doing? This is Be Royally Fit with Big K back again this Thursday, 9:30 p.m. as promised. Last week we had a good show. I want to thank my boy Jamal for contributing to last week's broadcast where we were talking about fitness and fat phobia. Is it real or is it fake? He gave some great testimonials regarding his experience in the fitness field and things that he has dealt with in the past regarding fitness and getting in shape. So I want to give a big shout out to Jamal and his contribution last week to our show. Last week we spoke about BMI and its importance and its relevance regarding if it was real, whether it was Eurocentric or its purpose that it served the body. So again, big shout out to Jamal for his contributions regarding that. And today we are going to talk about sugar and the dangers of sugar. Sorry, please forgive me, guys. Tonight's show we're going to talk about sugar, and we have a special guest, my boy Reem the God, who will be on at 10 p.m. tonight to give some contributions to what he is doing in the community for the youth regarding exercise and fitness and health and nutrition literacy over in Harlem, one of Harlem's own. So 10 o'clock, we got Reem coming on. So give him a big shout out and warm welcoming come 10 o'clock. Reem will be on. But first, as promised, we're going to be talking about sugar and the dangers of sugar and its effect on the body and what exactly is happening when you consume sugar. And a lot of people are unaware of this, but again, our purpose is to take complicated topics and make them relatively straightforward and pretty easy to comprehend. So let's, without further ado, let's get started talking about sugar. Now, we all know we love sugar, love our sweets. A lot of us, many of us do. But what is going on in the body when we consume sugar? What is actually happening to us when we consume sugar? So I want to start out by saying this. When you consume sugar, right, and you're having a great time eating all these sweets and all these really good tasting foods, right? And when you go to the doctor and they tell you that your sugar is high, and you get all these numbers in front of you in the chart, and you may not necessarily know what these numbers mean. All right. But I'm going to tell you the way to measure your sugar is you measure it by what is called your A1C levels. Okay. So anytime you go to the doctor and they tell you that your A1C is high, again, we're going to keep it real simple. I'm not going to break down A1C, but I'm going to sort of tell you that is the way that your sugar is measured in the body through your A1C. And just to give you a gauge, so you understand exactly where your A1C level should be, and when you are essentially in the danger zone, here's a reference to go by so you can remember and you know what you're talking about when you go to your doctor. So normal A1C levels are about 5.7, right? And then when you get into the 6.2, you are pre-diabetic. Anything above 6.4, measuring your sugar levels, you are essentially considered to be diabetic. Okay. And we all know that diabetes, type 2 diabetes, is not a good thing. So that gives you a gauge, excuse me, and a point of reference to know where your sugar is and what you're consuming. So anything at 6.4 and above, you are essentially diabetic. And we don't want that. That's not a good thing, right? So back to sugar. We have to understand that sugar essentially has no nutritional value whatsoever. Table sugar, granule sugar, it has no nutritional value whatsoever. Sugar cane, the molasses, has nutritional value. Once it is separated and processed to make table sugar, there is zero nutritional value in sugar. It has no nutritional value. The molasses, the black part of the sugar, actually has minerals. Uh, um, uh, Boy, it would slip in my mind, but it does have nutrients, calcium, things like that. It does have that in it. The white part, the table sugar, has no nutritional value whatsoever when you consume it. So just keep that in mind when you're eating sugar. It has no nutritional value whatsoever. Nothing for you. It does not benefit you in the slightest way, shape, or form. So understand that. When you consume sugar, you might notice that you tend to get tired, all right, after consuming sugar. And the reason why, I'm going to tell you what's going on in the body, is that sugar, when you consume it, it's giving you a dopamine spike. It is spiking your dopamine. And then after that, it releases a chemical called cortisol. And that's why you get the itis and you feel tired and like you're crashing after you consume the sugar. Now, I'm going to also tell you that this dopamine, when you consume it, it can be very powerful and very addictive when you're consuming sugar. Just know that. Here's a little fun fact. I bet you didn't know this. Sugar is about 8 to 10 times more addictive and stimulating than cocaine. Let me say that again. Sugar is about 8 to 10 more times more addictive than cocaine. Believe it or not. Yes, it is. Back during the Crusades, the Christian Crusades, when they would go sack a village, many of the soldiers would get high and consume sugar before they went into the town, and they would kill the babies and kill the adults. They would consume high amounts of sugar because back then there was no such thing as cocaine, but they would consume ridiculous high amounts of sugar to go on a high before they sacked that village. So just know how addictive sugar is on the brain. And also, it was made known to me. I'm not going to say how, but let's just say that it was made known to me by an individual who is familiar with perps or prisoners in the prison system that are heroin and or methamphetamine addicts, right? And what happens is, when they can't get their hit of heroin or they're crashing on meth and they need to get them up and ready to send them to go to court, what they would do is this is a confidential source, is what officers would do or cops would do is that they would load them up with sugar so they could wake up and, be presentable for court. Now, I know you might have a problem with that, but the focus in me saying this story, telling this story, is to show you just how strong, just how powerful, just how much of a stimulant sugar is that they have drug addicts who are addicted to heroin and or methamphetamine, and if they get arrested and they have to present this individual in front of a judge, and when they don't have a hit and they don't have anything to wake them up, they're going into withdrawal. So it was made known to me that officers, cops would get tons of sugar, candy, give it to them in order to get them riled up or presentable, if you will, to go in front of the judge. So, interesting. So that just goes to show you how powerful sugar is, actually. Again, sugar. So every time you take sugar, every time you consume sugar, you notice that you got that itis, you feel tired, and you feel even more hungrier. Well, I got news for you. The sugar is making you hungry. Again, the sugar is making you feel more hungry. Some of the things that happens when you consume sugar, For the young people, young girls, young ladies out there, you release a hormone called androgen. Releasing that hormone, androgen, gives you acne. It breaks you out and messes up your skin when you consume high amounts of sugar. Guys, gentlemen who are watching this, when you consume high amounts of sugar, the older gentlemen, this is for the adults, we're all grown here. When you consume high amounts of sugar and you have a bad diet with high glucose and carbs, it lowers your testosterone levels. So if you are not performing the way that you like in the bedroom and you have a crabby diet, consuming excess amounts of sugar, well, I got news for you. That could very well potentially be a contributor to you not being able to perform, is all the sugar that you're consuming. So that's another detriment of consuming too much sugar, not being able to perform in the bedroom and it affecting your testosterone levels, gentlemen. So just know that that is what the sugar does to you. Another thing of consuming too much sugar, as I said, you crash. You feel lethargic because it is releasing a hormone called cortisol. And when that hormone is released, you don't feel like doing anything. It's called the itis, right? So that is something that, what happens when you have too much sugar in your body. Okay. Water retention. You feel that you're always bloaty. You feel like you're always fat, for lack of a better word of describing it. That is the excess sugar in your body. The sugar makes you retain more water. So I found this interesting. An individual came up to me and he was about 400 pounds, no exaggeration. And he was telling me how his knees was bothering him. And he says, oh, yeah, I got 60-year-old knees and, my knees are shot. And I'm thinking, well, maybe if you just started eating better, your knees might start feeling better. But I have no doubt in my mind that it was much of the sugar that he was consuming that was inflaming his joints, inflaming his arteries, that made it more difficult to get around. I have no doubt about it whatsoever that was a big contributor, was the amount of sugar that he was consuming. Also, a telltale sign of too much sugar. I can't pronounce it. It's a very, very long word. So if you ever saw a heavy person or an obese person, right? And you ever saw a true story, okay? Here's another testimony I'm going to tell you. My uncle used to yell at my cousin nonstop when he would go and take a shower. He would always yell at him. And he would be like, wash your neck. You're not clean. My uncle, that's what he does. He barks. He constantly, nothing is soft-spoken, right? He's always, what are you doing? Like that, right? Very annoying, but that's besides the point. So he'd always yell at his son and accuse him for not washing properly when he got in the shower, around his neck, in the creases of his elbow. He would constantly yell at him and tell him that, you're not washing up properly. When in fact, again, I do forget the name of it, very long word, but I don't want to mess up the name of it. It's a telltale sign of excess sugar in the body. So if you ever see a large person, I'm sorry, just sending this out. So if you ever see a large person who has those dark spots in the creases around their neck, they might have it in the creases around their eyes, in the crease of their elbows, you'll see it a lot. That is a telltale sign that they have excess sugar in their body. And more than likely, they are a diabetic, they have type 2 diabetes, or they are pre-diabetic. But that is a telltale sign that they have excess sugar in their body. It is not dirt. I repeat, it is not dirt. All right. If you see an obese person, all right, and they have those dark spots um, in the crease of their elbow or around their neck, all right, and you may be laughing at this, thinking that they're dirty, they don't wash properly. I assure you, it is not dirt. It is a telltale sign that it is excess sugar that they have in their body. So again, I do forget the name of it. It's a very long and difficult word to pronounce, but I see a lot of people on social media making comments about this. I see videos where they're doing makeup changes and things like that, and comments about washing your ass and things like that. Well, that's not what's going on. It is a telltale sign that they have a high amount of excess sugar in the body, and they are more than likely have type 2 diabetes, what's going on in their body. It is not dirt. Again, it is not dirt. And my uncle came to find out once he took him to the doctor that it is not dirt that is in the body. That is a telltale sign of excess sugar in your body. Gentlemen, those who have those beer guts, those beer bellies, that is a telltale sign that you are consuming more than likely way too much sugar, and you more than likely have a fatty liver. You have a fatty liver. If you have that beer belly, that beer gut, chances are you have a fatty liver, okay? You got a fatty liver. So when we see these things, again, Black folks in our community, we see this all the time, and we might just make fun of it and laugh at it. I'm telling you what's going on in the body. I'm telling you the science behind it, and these are the telltale signs. That's what's happening to an individual, and it's more than likely due to the high amounts of sugar that individual is consuming. All right. So if you stop consuming so much sugar and you detox from sugar, if you will, and it takes about 10 to 14 days to detox from sugar, you will find that you would retain less water. And given, it would vary from person to person, but I would guess that you would lose about anywhere from 10 to 15 pounds of water weight, because the sugar is retaining so much water in the body and causing you to retain so much weight. So if you just cut out all of that sugar, wow, you find that you would, ladies, you trying to fit in that dress, you trying to go out somewhere, cut the sugar out for 2 weeks. You ain't even got to go on all that juicing cleanse diet. Cut all the sugar out just for 2 weeks and see how much you take off your waist, and see if you can't fit into that dress or not if you cut out the sugar. And this is what happened. Again, ladies, guys, I'm giving you the science behind it. I'm telling you what's going on inside the body when you consume sugar and its effect that it has on you. This is real, believe it or not. If you stop consuming so much sugar, you'll find that you will now have room, right, for your body to start consuming the good minerals and the good nutrients. Okay, because what's happening is the sugar. You ever know, your mom, your dad tell you, don't eat the sweets before dinner because you're going to spoil your meal. You're going to kill your appetite. Well, there's some truth to that. Because when you're consuming the sugar, when you're consuming the goodies and the sugar, well, you won't be able to. There's no room, the receptors for you to now absorb the good nutrients and the good minerals from high quality food when you eat that. So you in fact are technically, I guess, spoiling your meal, so to speak, when you consume too much sugar. Another thing about sugar, when you stop consuming sugar, what happens in the body is the body now shifts from a sugar to a fat fuel phase, and you start burning fat more efficiently and effectively because you're eliminating the sugar. And what's going on there is now the liver starts producing more what we call ketones. All right, you're going to see where I'm going with this. And the benefit of ketones is that it has a positive effect on producing brain nerve cells. When you produce more ketones, when you eliminate the sugar and you're producing more ketones, you now have more brain function. You will be more sharper. You can be able to focus longer because, again, you are now eliminating the cortisol out of your body that, in fact, was making you more tired before. Now, the ketones. The benefit of ketones is because you are burning off fat as fuel more efficiently when you are now ketones. Now, I want to give the context of this very carefully, all right? Now, many people always ask me, is a ketogenic diet beneficial? And I want to answer that this way. I want to give context to being on a ketogenic diet and that it can be benefit. But if, as we say in the fitness world, if you go so far, so deep into the hole, if you will, that your sugar is so low, then it can become a detriment where you have now low blood sugar. You have a low A1C level that is too low. And what happens with that is, I can speak from firsthand experience, all right? I'll just tell you a quick story. I was dieting. I was getting ready for a bodybuilding show, and I'm on a strict diet, and I was walking in Costco's with my mother. I took my mother to Costco's to go shopping, and I'm eating clean. I'm eating all this white fish, vegetables, things of that nature every day, right? And you know, when in Costco, you know, they got those people around that are giving out those free samples, and they gave out the free samples, and they gave out a little card with the free sample. And I'm looking at the card, and at the time I have it in my hand, and you know, I'm thinking that the print might be small on the card. So I you know, I'm like, you know, sometimes I wear glasses, like, you know, when I look in front of the computer, I need glasses, and I can't see it. So I'm thinking, you know, maybe the sun was in my eyes, maybe I went outside. So I shake my head, and I'm looking at it, and I cannot read this. For the life of me, I cannot read the writing on this card in front of me. Like, I can't read nothing, right? And then my mother's talking to me, and I'm looking at her, but she starts to look blurry. And I'm like, okay, like, what's going on now? And then I'm noticing when I'm looking around and the labels, I can't read anything on the shelves. I cannot read it. I can't see the writing. And at that point, I said, okay, I think my sugar is starting to get low. So I'm in the middle of Costco in summertime, and I feel that my sugar is getting low. And I'm saying to myself, you bet not pass out in Costco. You bet not pass out in Costco. And they got to drag your big ass off the floor for everyone to see in the middle of Costco. So I felt that I started getting dizzy. I felt that it started to get darker in the corner of my eyes. And I started to get a little nervous, and I really couldn't start to see. I really couldn't see. So I went to the front. I yelled at the people, I need a Gatorade, I need a Gatorade, I need Gatorade, I need Gatorade, I need sugar, I need Gatorade, I need Gatorade. And they looked at me. I was like, I need Gatorade now. And I managed to get the Gatorade. And I just started downing about 2-3 Gatorades. And I went outside, and still it started to get darker, my vision. And after a while, it started to reverse, and my sugar started to go back up. And as a result of that, afterwards, I had the biggest migraine in the world after my sugar went up. Now, what I just described to you is a state of ketosis. And low blood sugar, which is a very, very dangerous place to be in. And you don't want that to happen to you. So when people ask me, is a ketogenic diet beneficial? There's context. It can be. And when your brain when your liver starts producing more ketones, yes, it can be more beneficial for you to focus and have your cognitive systems producing more ketones. So that's how I answered that. There's context, but I'm not going to say, oh yeah, do it like this, no problem, without giving context. All right. So some other things about sugar and its consumption, and this will help you when you go out and you're reading labels. All right. We have something called fructose syrup. What is fructose syrup? A lot of us don't even know what fructose syrup is because it's not listed at where the sugar is in the grams and on the labels of foods and things that we consume. Fructose syrup is something that was created in the late 60s, early 70s, and they got a license to manufacture it, and it derives from cornstarch. I think they use the cornstarch to make glucose and then synthesize it to make the fructose, but it is terrible for you. It's horrible. And you will find fructose syrup in many of the products that you consume every day, and you probably didn't even know about it. So when you drink a lot of that sugary soda, artificial candies and all of that crap that doesn't necessarily say sugar, well, make no mistake about it, it contains fructose syrup. And fructose syrup can, in fact, make you diabetic. It just does it in a different way. Because what happens with the fructose is that it goes directly to the liver. And you may not necessarily have an elevated sugar level. So you might think that you're in the clear when you're consuming this fructose, right? But what happens is that it goes to the liver and you start consuming so much of this that you still can become what is called insulin resistant. And that happens when you keep spiking the insulin because the insulin is trying to remove the hormone insulin is trying to remove the sugar out of your body because the body is viewing the sugar to be toxic. And it says we need to remove it and distribute it around the body. But because you keep repeating this process so frequently and at a high level, is that you start malfunctioning the pancreas for the insulin. And the insulin tries to protect your body and stop producing, stops the cells from absorbing the insulin. And you become insulin resistant. And when you become insulin resistant, make no mistake about it, you are on the path to becoming a type 2 diabetic. So, fructose syrup does it differently than sugar. But make no mistake about it, it's just as bad for you. So, a lot of things that they tell us that are good for us or should be on the food charts for our children. Number one, a lot of the juices, fruit juices, if you will, they're not good for you. All right? They're not good for you at all. Why are they not good for you? Fruit, again, I'm going to give context. Fruit can be good for you. Fruit juices are not. And the reason why the fruit juices are not is because the fruit juices are pasteurized. What does that mean when something is pasteurized? It means that they cook it. So when they take the juice out of fruit and they pasteurize it, they have just cooked out all of the nutrients out of the fruit. It's not good for you. So all you're getting is sugar. That's all you're getting is sugar. So anytime you see pasteurized fruit juice, it's not good for you. I'm teaching you guys how to read labels so you can comprehend and you understand what exactly you're putting in your body. All right. And just to plug really quick, take a second. You can email me for diets and explain these topics at beroyalyfit@gmail.com. You can see it right there on the bottom of the screen. That is beroyalyfit@gmail.com. And I can give you personal diets, exercise plans, the works offline, if you want to learn more about these things. But back to the fructose syrup and what's happening, it is in many other products that they would tell us that are good for us. So the apple juice that they give in schools, it contains fructose syrup. It is not good for you. When you go to the stores and you buy all the stuff and it has fructose syrup, I assure you, it is not good for you. All right. Fruit. So you might say to yourself, well, fruit has to be good for me, right? Why? How could fruit be bad for me? Well, again, let's give the context and the perspective. We as humans can never leave well enough alone. And I want to give this knowledge again. A lot of people has the resources to understand these topics. Many of us in Black and brown communities, we don't know no better. They give us whatever. You go to the store, your mother been eating it, your grandmother been eating it, and you're going to eat it the same. Your grandfather, your father, so forth and so on, been eating the same thing, and you have no clue what it is that you're putting in your body. Well, I'm going to help you better understand what's going on. So the fruit that you are consuming, we have genetically modified fruit to be more tasting and more appealing. So for example, if you take a crab apple and a Honeycrisp apple, an apple is not naturally meant to have 19 grams of sugar in it. We have genetically modified a Honeycrisp apple to be sweeter. That's what we've done. And because it sells and it is appealing to us. So if you tell someone, oh, you need to eat more fruit. Well, that statement on the surface is essentially good. But when you start going, deeper, no, it's not really good. Well, it depends what fruit you're consuming. So high sugary fruits, get your pens out, take notes. High sugary fruits are pineapples, mangoes, grapes. All of these things are high sugary fruits. Low sugary fruits, berries, any type of berries has low sugar. Kiwis, high in potassium, low sugar. Cantaloupe, low sugary fruit. Strawberries, low sugary fruit. All right. So just so you have an idea, some examples of low sugar and high sugar fruits, those are the following. All right. That might help you make better choices with your fruits. And do understand that many of our fruits are genetically modified, to appeal to our taste buds, like a crab apple as opposed to, Honeycrisp apple. They're very different. So that just helps you understand and give you some context, what you're putting into your body and what happens. Also, just to take a couple of steps back with the fructose, what I said about the fructose, when you consume fructose and it goes straight to the liver and you become insulin resistant, also understand that once that fructose is in the liver, it converts to fat and triglycerides. Okay, so it may not necessarily say sugar, but the fructose is not good in the body. And to help you better read labels, you can also know something. Oh, hold on, my boy Kareem is on. So this is Reem the God. What's up? Big shout out. Welcome to the broadcast, my brother. I appreciate the time. Can you hear me? Let me make sure his audio is good. Yeah, I think you got to enable your audio, brother. We can't hear you.
I don't have any headphones.
Okay, we can hear you. You can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, brother. Good. Big shout out. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We was just finishing up talking about sugar and fructose. Fructose, when you consume fructose and what happens. So let me just wrap that up, and then we're gonna introduce you and your contributions to what you're doing in the communities. So when we consume fructose, again, it goes straight to the liver. And granted, your sugar might not necessarily spike, but it goes to the liver and it can make you become insulin resistant. And the fructose in your body converts to fat and triglycerides, which in turn will also kill you and not be very good for you. All right. So that's some of the detriments and things that sugar can do to you, and why you should avoid sugar and why you should detox from sugar. All right. So we'll go into that a little bit more deeper in the weeks to come. We'll also dive into diabetes, but that's a whole show when we talk about diabetes and what exactly has happened with that. My boy Reem. So just to give everybody a big background introduction of what Reem does, he is doing the work in Harlem. Reem, you from Harlem, right?
I'm originally from the Bronx, but I'm from Harlem.
All right, okay. All right. So he's repping Harlem. He's from Harlem. This brother is doing a lot of fitness work with kids at schools in Harlem. I know he had his boot camp classes that was really popping off in the parks, getting people in shape, introducing them to fitness literacy. So, it's all part of encouraging people and getting them on that fitness journey and eating better, living better. So I want to definitely give a big shout out to Reem and the work that he's doing up in Harlem. So the kids that you're working with, give us a little bit more insight. What school were you working at, and what were you doing at that program in Harlem in terms of fitness for the kids, for the youth?
Okay. First and foremost, I want to thank you for having me. So as far as the fitness component I was doing, before I got to the East Harlem Charter School, I was working with Harlem Children's Zone. So they pretty much got me prepared for the charter schools that I'm working with now. I was working with Harlem Children's Zone for about 13 years before I went into the Department of Corrections. But I used the skill set and the experience that I had with HEZ, and I applied that with the East Harlem Charter School that I worked with this past year. The experience I had with them was pretty cool. They was very enthused about me coming. They took full advantage of the opportunity of making sure they was on top of their health and wellness. I gave them great advice.
What age group are they?
Huh?
What's the age group you working with?
It was 9th through 12th grade.
Okay. All right.
And they were like a sponge. They was really, really excited about just the movements and the exercises that I was performing for them during the time of the boot camp. And I was just giving them some insight on what health can do for them long term. You know what I mean? After high school, college, and even after college. You know what I mean? I was just giving them the benefits on being in shape and what it takes to stay in shape. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times these kids, they take it for granted that they're always going to look good. But after a while, once you get into your adult stages, then the test really becomes harder, because now it's about maintenance and making sure you're eating the right things and making sure you're getting your rest and your nutrition is right. You know what I mean? So like, I was really just helping them out in that component. They took full advantage of it. A lot of kids really took the time to want to become trainers, and I was giving them
Really?
advice on how to get certified and stuff like that, and what steps to
Mm.
take. And it was just a big for me, just giving back to the community, because I was once in their shoes, and being able to be an influencer at this state and during this generation that we're in now is really big, because a lot of kids, they don't have the guidance um, that
Mhm.
that I had. You know what I mean? Like, I had a lot of people that was fitness orientated, because I my background was basketball before I got into the bodybuilding world and the fitness
Right.
world, but it all kind of intertwined with each other as far as conditioning and staying in shape and being healthy and being able to perform. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So I just applied that with me, and I'm still doing it. I'm still trying to give back to the community, to clients, to detainees, anybody who I could share the knowledge that I was given. I'm willing to share with other people.
So you played ball, and you had that guidance the time that you as a youth growing up in Harlem. You want to shout anybody out who helped you, put you on that
Um,
path?
as far as my basketball background, I just want to shout out all my coaches, my high school, my college coaches. I just want to shout them out. Just people in the community that believed in me, um, and anybody that had my best interest. I just want to give them a shout out. I don't really have particular names, because it was more than one person that looked out for me, that had my best interest. But those
Right.
individuals did play a pivotal role in my life. You know, growing up, they kept me out the streets, and it definitely helped, because it was definitely rough growing up where I was at, in Harlem and in the Bronx. So I just want to give a
Hmm.
shout out to everybody who was ever had my best interest and was in my corner during my basketball career.
Right. So how was it? How was it when you first went into the school? Sometimes, a lot of times these kids, because I know, because I've been a mentor at Harlem Choir Academy years ago, and a lot of the times when you go into these schools, they tell you that you're essentially getting, quote unquote, the worst of the worst, if you will,
Right.
right? And these are the problematic kids. But I found that I really had no problem connecting with them when I went into the schools. I really didn't have any problem, but I think that they got a bad rap. But how were you received when you first went into the schools and you were teaching them about fitness?
I took it as a challenge, because I was once a problematic kid. So I was able to relate to them, you know what I mean? And they was able to connect with me, like, from the jump, you know what I mean? Like, one thing
Ah,
about problematic kids, they know authenticity. They know when somebody's authentic.
that's the
You know what I
truth.
mean? So you can't fake that. That's one thing, and that's with anybody. Even prior to the job that I'm at now, working on
Right,
Rikers Island. You know what I mean? Like, you can't fake authenticity. Like, people can rewrite through you. So, just being you is a big flex. You know what I mean? So when I came into the charter school and I was with the ninth through 12th graders, I had my few students that was giving me a hard time, but it was
right,
how, your delivery with them, your delivery counts, and just saying what you mean. And then when they see that you're serious about your craft, they'll
right.
take you serious as well. You know what I mean? So, like, it kind of played, for me, it wasn't a hard time. Like,
Now
I
that
had
has
my
to be
challenging
said.
students,
Right,
but at the end of the day, I was still able to connect with them. I was still able to relate to them, and we moved forward. They respected me. I respected them, and they still was able to engage into the 1 hour that I held with them, and eventually
mhm,
I used those individuals as influencers for the class. Like, sometimes I'll let them lead the stretch, or sometimes I'll
right.
let them lead
Oh
the
yeah,
exercises. So I put them in position to utilize this behavior that you have, but in a positive way. So,
right.
a little bit of reverse psychology, and it worked out in my favor.
And I also say that I know from my experience when you go into these schools, and for lack of a better way of putting it, when you're coming back to the community, when you're going in the hood, a lot of these kids, boys and girls, have not been exposed to positive black male strong leadership.
Right.
And this is something that is very new to them. And sometimes you could see in a lot of, or I have seen that in the young boys' eyes, you can see that they're thirsty, that they're yearning for this guidance for this direction that they have been neglected, because a lot of them, no offense to the sisters, they do their work, but they are yearning for and thirsty for that male leadership, that male guidance that they have not been getting in so long. So when, and especially if you're working out and you have a stature and you have a certain command about yourself, and when you're walking into a room, into an auditorium, and they see that, this is like, wow, this is different. Now, I'll say on the negative side, on the flip side, I've noticed that when you're a strong male or coming towards a young woman, a young female that has not been exposed to strong male leadership, black male leadership, they can become resentful or push back against it. Now, when I bring that up to say that I have gotten that, and I had to now sort of, okay, take a step back, see how I'm going to come at this. So when you need them to focus and pay attention in the class, how was your experience in dealing with the younger women, the younger girls in the classes?
For the women, first and foremost, I make sure I let them know that to always value yourself. Like, I always gave them that much respect. Like, value yourself as a teenager and as a woman. You know what I mean? So I gave them the utmost respect, and I also made sure that, I didn't shy away from them, because sometimes as a fitness gym rat or influencer, sometimes we can be kind of like, how should I word this? What's the word I'm looking for? Jesus Christ. I'm getting
harsh on them.
I'm trying to get
tough
my words
together. What do you mean, tough on them? You saying how we could be, or stringent, or demanding?
Yeah, sometimes we can be demanding, just off our aura and what we're trying to bring to them. What we're trying to teach them. Sometimes they don't. They can come off. We could come off a little bit demanding, and sometimes we got to understand that these are females that are new to this, especially teenagers. You know what I mean?
Right.
They don't look at it as, okay, it should be mandatory that you work out because it has many health benefits for you, because they're not brought up on that. So we still got to become role models for females as well. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I always tell people, like, listen, I know there's not one person in here that doesn't want to look good, especially now. Like, so in order to look good, you have to do these things. In order to feel good, you have to do these things. And I'm not forcing it upon you. It's just a positive advice. You can take it with you, or you don't have to take it with you. You know what I mean? But again, they're gonna go by what they see. So if you come in a room and you are a person with stature, you have a look, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They can see that you take your lifestyle seriously, and that'll just, that vibe and energy will wear off on them, hopefully.
Well, I'll tell you something. I was invited rather by Dr. Shango Blake over the summer to come speak to the kids and do a little fitness exercising at Challenge Charter School. I want to give a shout out to them. Challenge Charter Schools out in Far Rockaway, Queens. I hope I have that right. Challenge Charter Schools out in Far Rockaway, Queens. Good staff, great facilities. And the one thing I loved about it is, it is sometimes Far Rockaway, I'm from Brooklyn, but we got to give love to Far Rockaway, because they're like the forgotten island out there, that they even exist out in Far Rockaway. So about 90% of the staff and the teachers are all black, the principal, the kids, and they're doing work over there. So I want to give a shout out to Challenge Charter School out in Far Rockaway. When I went out there, I'm trying to get everybody motivated. I'm like, all right, guys, let's go. We're doing jumping jacks. We're doing push-ups. And there's like a group of 6-7 young ladies off to the side. And they're standing there like this. And I'm like, come on, ladies, let's go. And they was like, my leg hurt. I don't do jumping jack. And you can see it was that uncomfortableness that they were being spoken to by a male using a deep voice to do something with some direction. And I pulled back because then you start getting the rolling of the eyes. You start getting, a little bit of resentment. So I said to myself, IK, you know what you're going to do? You got to get the one who is their leader or the influential one.
Right.
Once you get that one, everyone else will fall in line. And that's what I started to do in talking to the one that I view as having the strongest personality, befriending that one, and then have her be influential in getting everyone else to get on board with what we were trying to do.
Right.
And for the most part, I thought that it worked, in doing that. I love working with kids. I do, but we all know how it can be sometimes. But I love the kids in helping them. Now, it's one thing, again, both of us are out there in the schools, in the community, teaching health and wellness. Now, once the kids leave the school and they go home, this has to be reinforced through the parents. So what would you like to do for the future to reinforce what you have going for the parents and teaching them fitness literacy to make sure that it's sustainable for the kids once they leave these after school programs? Because again, these are kids. When they go home, they go cook what mom or dad is cooking or gives them. So how do you think that you can penetrate the minds and change the parents to now adapt this fitness lifestyle?
Honestly, more or less, I normally would tell the students that their parents are more than welcome to come to these classes as well. You know what I mean? And if they can't make the classes, like, I would always provide some type of flyer or some type of informative information to bring home to their parents. You know what I mean? Because sometimes it may take a child to go home and tell their parents what they got done in school and what they would like to keep or continue to do, because it's something beneficial for them and they like what they see. They like the results they're getting. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So sometimes, that has to be said. Like the child has to stand on their word and what they're being told, especially if it's informative and it's something beneficial for them and their families. They could take it home with them. But when I was working in the school, it was for the kids and for the public. But the public sometimes were teachers, parents, and people of that nature. You know what I mean? So like, it wasn't just students I was working with. After a while, it became anybody who wanted to show up. And I would have my one or two parents that would come and work out with their child. You know what? So because it starts from the parents. You know what I mean? Like you said, when they go home, they got to eat whatever mom or dad made. You know what I mean? But they also have they also could be heard and be like, listen, I was told if I do this or eat this, these are the benefits behind it. So just giving them some type of flyers or just information they could take home to their parents. You know what I mean? Because sometimes the parents is not knowledgeable. You know what I mean? And it's not their fault. So you have to help them become knowledgeable on what their kids and themselves should be eating. You know what I mean? Because everybody is quick for the fast food lifestyle and things that are quick to make at home, but those things are not the best things to make for your child. You know what I mean? And a lot of kids don't like to eat certain things that may be bland or maybe not good for them because they're so used to a certain lifestyle at home. But over a period of time, if you keep it consistent, eventually it'll ring a bell eventually. You know what I mean? But like I said, all we can do is what we can. They can either take the information with them, or they can leave it. They can leave it in the school. It's really up to them. You know what I mean? But as long as we stay consistent, motivated, and on top of them, eventually they'll understand the method to our madness.
I absolutely agree. Like you said, you grew up in Harlem. I grew up in Brooklyn. I moved to Harlem. You know, we neighbors, and in our communities, in our environment. Now, everybody listening, we're gonna keep it 100 right now. All right, this is what it is. You got a lot of black people that are walking around at age 55 to 65. You're not exactly old. You're not old, but y'all walking around with walkers, with canes, obese. You're not 65 is not 85, 90.
That's a
You
fact.
should not be walking around with a walker at 60, 65 years old. And I remember before it got burned down like 3-4 times on Lenox Avenue, the whole stretch over there, but that's besides the point. They had the fish market. And at that fish market, they had a 5-gallon bucket on the counter. Now, I never really knew what was in the bucket, and I didn't pay attention to it. And I saw a brother besides next to me, and he was about, now, it's not even funny, because I don't think he's no longer with us. Now, if I had to guess, I would say that brother had to be in his mid to late 60s. And he took a soup ladle that was draped over the 5-gallon bucket, and it was melted butter in a 5-gallon bucket. And they put his seafood in the Ziploc bag, like you know how they do. And he took the soup ladle, dipped the whole ladle in the 5-gallon paint bucket of butter, and poured it into his seafood. And I was just staring at him, and he was like, "Need some more butter, right?" And I was like, "No." Nah, fam, you good. You good on the butter. He literally took the soup ladle, dipped it inside, put the butter on there, and I'm like, yo, this is crazy. They have a soup ladle dipping butter into the food. Now, I mean, a lot of people look at that and they be like, what are you talking about? That's good eating. But for me, I'm like, that's crazy. That's crazy to do that. So in our communities, we see it. We see them walking around with walkers. We see them walking around with canes. We see them chilling on a corner, eating nothing but bad food. And I'm not saying soul food is not good once in a while, but your diet really can't consist of seafood, burgers, and the liquor store. Like that can't be. So, you know, I know that it is a huge undertaking, but the reason why I was motivated to make this channel, that I know I'm going to have to build up and get the word out, is because a lot of things, like you said, we just don't know. We just don't know any better. And when you've been conditioned to eat this way for decades, well, it seems normal. It seems right to you. So my goal was to see how I can contribute to the communities and intercept that, change that, and bring that knowledge to what we're putting in our bodies. And when you eat healthy, it's not so bad and it's not so hard. When you think about just making very slight changes in your diet, what you're doing. So, you know, just for all of those listening out there in the communities, you know, we have to do better, and we have to be more responsible for what we're putting in our bodies. Kay, I want to ask you, I don't know how much more time you have with us, but I want to ask you something, because there are some educators who will be looking at this broadcast again. So if in any way, I know you told me that you were interested in getting into the school systems and the DOE and or charter schools on a larger level to push what you're doing out there. So maybe you can just give a little bit of feedback on what you wanted to know, what you were trying to do in implementing fitness, or what plans or visions you had to bringing into charter schools and the DOE schools.
I just, like I said, my vision is pretty much clear. I want to be an influencer to these nonprofit schools. I mean, charter schools and DOE. You know what I mean? Like, I'm currently in I'm currently in the charter school right now, but my goal is to get into the board of education, and just brand and just market myself as a fitness and wellness coach. You know what I mean? Like, where I come in and I provide them with services that they need. You know what I mean? Whether it may be boot camps or or one-on-ones, or just like anything fitness related, where I can give the knowledge that I was taught
Right.
over to these students. You know what I mean? And that's like my biggest goal right now is, like I said, is to get in there, get my vendor's license, or whatever I need, or any certs that I need to get into
Mhm.
these school systems right now. You know what I mean? And then once I'm in, I pretty much can take it from there, where I'll just be able to perform, and it won't be nothing new, because I do have the experience, but I still need more experience, and I feel like I gotta get myself out there and just show what I'm capable of doing. You know what I mean? And I think I'm ready for it. It's just putting the work in right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know we spoke offline, and whatever resources that I have to steer you on that path, and getting into the DOE and getting to the school system and teaching these kids more about health and wellness, health and fitness, because we cannot have 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds walking around at 140, 150 pounds, and they're
Absolutely
like,
not. Absolutely not.
not even 5 feet tall, some of them. And then you see the parents, and I mean, this is not a laughing matter, but you see the parents, and you can see that this is a cultural thing in what they're putting into their body. And you know that the kids don't know no better.
Right.
Mom and dad told them, this is what I eat, and you finish your plate. This is what you eat, and you finish your plate. They don't know that this is clogging their arteries. They don't know that this is going to make them a type 2 diabetic. And by the time, they're an adult, well, they've already have these bad habits that they can't shake. They can't shake for the love of them. So it's very important that this work is done, and that the DOE, thankfully, I know I don't agree with everything that he does, but I will say this much: we have a mayor that does in fact support better health choices of health and wellness.
Right.
So I have to give credit where credit is due, and he certainly does in fact support health and wellness. And to people out there who are going to look on the rebroadcast, don't always be fooled, because the FDA and what they tell you is beneficial to put in your body. I want to let you guys know something. A lot of these doctors and nutritionists are subsidized and paid by the sugar companies to make statements regarding sugar, regarding products that may be detrimental to your body. They're getting kickbacks, and they're getting paid to write up certain articles and make them ambiguous, make them confusing, or just flat out defend the consumption or high consumptions of sugars in people, because they're getting millions of dollars. So I want y'all to be aware of that as well. Okay, I don't know how much longer you can stay. If you want to hang out, you're certainly more than welcome to. I
I'm,
appreciate your contribution, for
Thank you. I
sure.
appreciate y'all. I'm about to grab some food, man. I'm about to make a healthy choice right now.
Oh, you know
Grab
how
a
it
ton
is,
of
man.
peas and
After you train,
crabs,
I know you
man.
you just trained.
Yeah.
This y'all understand who this is. This was I'm a little bit older than them. They looked at me as the OG, so I definitely am proud what he's doing. I want to give him a big shout out. I've worked with him, I've trained him a couple of times, and he's taking it on his own. He's taking the torch, and helping the communities and doing the work on the fitness end. So definitely give him a shout out. You want to plug your IG, you want to plug your TikTok, before you get up
Yeah.
out of here?
Nah, thank you again. I appreciate y'all. My TikTok is Reem the Godson, REEM the THE God GOD Son SON, and that's my fitness page, and I'll be up there a lot. I'll be posting like at least twice a week. I normally conduct boot camps at Riverbank State Park Thursday nights at 7 p.m., Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. And I'm also doing personal training. So if you guys need a trainer, let me know. Feel free to reach out. But other than that, thank you for having me. I appreciate y'all.
All right, my brother. Talk to you. I
All right.
appreciate your time. Thank you. So you see that's how we're doing it. Everybody that it's only been 2 broadcasts, but we're in the beginning stages of building up the channel, building up the audience, building up, getting the word out, building up the knowledge, and what it is we're doing. But that's one of the youths. That's my boy, man. I had when he first got into the gym and I met him, he was always thirsty for the knowledge of training, the angles, how to get his biceps better, how to get his chest better, and he was like, hey, I'm in Harlem, man, meet me at Blink, or I'll come by Star Fitness when you in the Bronx, let's train. So he's definitely one of the good young kings out there who is doing the work, leading by example in the community, and have fitness examples for these kids out here. As I said, we cannot have 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds walking around with beer belly guts. We can't have that. That's not a good look. It's not a good look. And I know that some people are going to be like, well, if they happy, that's all that matters. Well, we spoke about that last week. And I, for one, I don't buy into that saying. All right. And the reason why, let me give you the context of what I'm talking about. A lot of times people will say, well, I always say, do whatever makes you happy. So long as it makes you happy, that's all that matters. Go ahead and do it. Well, let's give some context to that. A lot of people may like smoking, being a chain smoker. We know the dangers of what's entailed with being a chain smoker. We know that you raise the potential of you getting cancer. We know that you can lose your voice. We know the secondhand smoke dangers, but that individual might be happy smoking. Are we going to say, well, just do what makes you happy? If you're a parent and you're a chain smoker and you're not going to be there for your children, are we still going to say, well, if they're happy, knock yourself out, keep doing it? I don't think we would enable that behavior. So as far as food goes, we have to understand that food can also be a drug. And a lot of us are eating ourselves into an early grave. Are we going to say, well, if they're happy, oh, well, if my son, if my daughter is happy, that's all that matters. They happy, do what makes you happy. I mean, come on, people. Come on now. Obviously, if you give a child food and they have been conditioned since birth to take joy in consuming that food or as a reward for or doing something, and we know what I mean by reward. So a lot of us as parents use the television and some food to keep your kids quiet. Just give them something to eat. I literally see it. I've literally been in barbershops, walked by salons, outside on the street. You can see that the kid is fat, is chubby, and crying or wants something, and the parent puts a donut in their hand, or a piece of chicken or French fry. I see it all the time. Okay, so enabling this behavior, and then where they can go inside and in the kitchen and start being able to make those themselves. Okay, are we going to say, well, they're happy, That's all that matters. Do what makes you happy. That baby is not even going to be 14 years old and going to be a type 2 diabetic. Come on now. Come on, people. So let's get away from some of these things where we just say things just to say them. Yeah, there's context there. Do whatever makes you happy. Yeah, well, there's a little bit of context to that. Do whatever makes you happy. If they just sit there and eat all day, we've seen the shows. What is it? My 500-Pound Life. Yeah, for a long time they were doing what made them happy. How has that worked out for them? I don't think you could say too well. It hasn't worked out too well. If a person is happy being an alcoholic, are we going to be like, hey, drink up, have another warm 6-pack in the morning? Come on now. So we have to be clear in what we're saying when we say things like, do whatever makes you happy. So let's be more responsible when we use those words and we bring that up to them. We got about 20 minutes on the broadcast. Next week, let's talk about what we are doing. I want to get away from, we're not going to get away from it, but I want to take a break from the diseases and food for a quick second. We'll come back to it. And I want to dive more into exercise. And next week, we are going to be focused and talking about how to gain and lose weight. If I had a nickel, every single time I'm walking down the street or in the gym, somebody want to have a full-blown conversation about what it is they got to eat to lose weight, or for guys, what do they have to do to put on muscle and put on pounds in definition to their physique. So next week, we will be talking about how do you lose weight. For those of you out there that think that you don't necessarily eat a lot of garbage, but your physique and your body would be resembles a person who does eat garbage. Well, I'm going to explain to you what exactly is going on in your body. I'm going to explain to you why you might find it difficult to lose weight. If you are a person who is skinny, like Snoop Dogg skinny, and you find it very difficult to put on mask and you want a little bit more muscle on your frame, I will explain to you your body type and why it is difficult for you to put on muscle, and some of the adjustments that you can make in your training and your diet to get that physique that you so desire. So that's going to be next week when we start talking about gaining, losing weight, gaining muscle, and what it is you have to do to have a better physique. Ladies and gentlemen, when I bring these topics up and I may come off a little bit harsh, sometimes that wake-up call is necessary because, we have had so many bad habits in our communities that sometimes we need that wake-up call. We need that shock. We have to be able to let somebody know that, no, you can't live like this. Well, you could live like this, but here's what's happening if you continue to live like this. And as I said last week, I'm going to say again, I am not one of those body positivity people, in the sense that, again, let me get the context. I am not one of those people that's going to say that you're not doing or making an effort to do any work to live a healthier lifestyle. And I should be okay with the fact that you're eating this food and putting the message out there that it's okay for others to live this way when it could be, potentially kill you. I'm not going to do that. As I said last week, you wouldn't do it with a drug addict. You wouldn't do it with an alcoholic. You would not do these things with any of those things. You wouldn't sit back and allow someone to spiral out of control by engaging in a certain activity and not saying, hey, I think, we need to have a little bit of an intervention. You wouldn't do that. So we're not going to do it here. All right. Guys, well, we got our last 15 minutes here. I want to go over some more things with sugar and labels when you're picking out food. Just to give you a heads up, know something that when you pick up a label, right, and it may say something like other sugars, all right, just know that there is many times in food naturally occurring sugar in a particular product. So you can get a product that may be made with oranges, apples, grapes, some sort of sugary fruit. All right. That product naturally has sugar in it, naturally occurring sugar. So just know that you are consuming that naturally occurring sugar in addition to any sugar additives that they have added to that product, if that makes sense. Is that clear? So if I buy something that they have used from, say, like a fruit base, and it has had natural sugars in that product, all right, and they add on table sugar, just know that that is even more sugar that is not necessarily being represented in the label when you're reading it. All right. And when you also have a label, I should have had one in front of me now. When you're reading a label and it says grams of sugar per serving, what you have to do to calculate what you're putting into your body, you have to take the grams listed on that box and you have to multiply it by the serving size. And that will tell you the total amount of sugar in the entire box. Now, I know, or container. All right. And I know some people might be looking at that and be like, well, no, duh. Well, guess what? A lot of people are clueless to how to read labels. All right. So just know that when you read the grams of sugar per serving, it is not representative of the amount in the entire container or the entire box. You have to multiply that times the servings, and then you will get what you're consuming, and then multiply that times the whole box or container, and that will tell you the full amount of grams of sugar in the entire box. While we have time, I want to, even though we're not going into fat so much, I want to give you another heads up and something interesting about fats. And I guess it's kind of like a did you know? So, trans fats, right? Those are bad fats, all right? I believe that the FDA has stated that if the amount of trans fat per serving is below 1 gram per serving, it is not required that it is listed on that label. All right. Now, just think how crazy that is. So that means that you could have 0.8, 0.9 grams of trans fat in a product per serving, And then you multiply that times the servings in that container. Well, obviously, it's going to come out to be well over 1 gram. Obviously. I mean, not unless, you have a serving size of, the box is that small, So just gives you an idea to show you how we are essentially being killed and duped into making horrible choices regarding food. So the fact that you are not required to list the trans fat unless it's below that 1 gram threshold, right? Or don't quote me on it, whatever it is. You don't have to list it. But if it's less than that, obviously there can be more trans fat times that serving in that entire container, which is horrible, absolutely horrible for you. And at the end of the day, you clearly would be consuming well over that 1 gram. It's kind of, it's not kind of, it's very deceiving for somebody to do that to people, But again, a lot of these people receive a lot of kickbacks. They receive a lot of payouts when they are writing up the pseudoscience on a lot of these topics, and people who are not doing the research, or people who simply just don't know any better, they're going about, consuming these products, and they're trusting that the government, they're saying, well, it's FDA approved. Look what the FDA said. They're trusting the FDA to put these things into their body, and, having detrimental side effects regarding it. So that's just really unfortunate. That's really sad what's happening. So, just keep that in mind. All right, guys, we have a little bit more time left, but I'm going to wrap up this broadcast today. I want to thank all the people who did tune in, and we will be back on next Thursday, 9:30. Be Royally Fit. I'm Big K, aka Kaya Royal. Also want to give a big shout out to my other broadcasts. I am a member of Black Influencers United, so I will be on that broadcast this upcoming fall, Black Influencers United, and I will give further information regarding that broadcast. So thank you, guys. I appreciate the time that you took tuning into this broadcast. I will see you again next week, Thursday. Be Royally Fit, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, guys, for the time and tuning in. All right, I'm out. Big K.